There are people who might consider moving into an expensive neighborhood because it's a good investment, as we know, or maybe it's for the schools, or simply to rub shoulders with the rich and famous and pretend you're one of them.
Now, before you put your home on the market and consider doing any of that, you may want to be careful. A new study does suggest that living among the wealthy, when you are not one of them, could increase your unhappiness, and with some dire consequences. So, joining us in studio, psychotherapist Kimberly Moffit joins us. Good to see you again.
Nice
Welcome.
to see you.
This is very interesting, but also very disturbing. I mean, at the core of this, what are they saying? If you want to attain that great blue chip neighborhood, but you're not making blue chip money, you're not happy, you're in distress, and your risk of suicide does go up quite dramatically.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, so this
Were you surprised at this or not?
For me, I wasn't surprised, but I think this is a surprising study for many people.
Yeah.
I do work as a psychotherapist in private practice, and for me, I can see how the toll that this kind of keeping up with the Joneses approach can take on someone's mental health. It creates anxiety, it can create depression, it can make you feel inadequate. And if you're one of those average or even great income earners living in a very affluent neighborhood, you all of a sudden feel like you're not normal, like you're abnormal or less than normal. And even though you might be doing very well if we put you in a neighborhood of people who made the same amount as you. So all of a sudden you feel like you need to just kind of keep working harder. And I mean, it's a treadmill that you'll never get off because there will always be somebody who makes more than you or has more stuff than you.
It's kind of interesting because 100 years ago, hardly anybody made money. A handful made all the money. Everybody else made just enough to scrape by. Yeah. And when you're the same as everybody else, there's a sense of we're all in this together, and you don't feel necessarily poor or rich.
Yes.
But once we have these huge divisions in our society like we live in now, it's really easy to see who's got more than you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, the psychology of money is absolutely fascinating. So it's not even at all about having our basic needs met, but it's everything to do with feeling like we're not good enough because we don't have enough stuff.
Yeah, or status, right? How you equate your own status vis-a-vis others. So what's interesting to me and pops out is that the actual suicide risk, they actually break it down. So they're saying if you are making more than $75,000 a year, that generally this is all you kind of really need to be happy.
Yes.
But if you make not enough money in your life, your risk of suicide does go up quite dramatically. So if you're making less than $10,000, even less than $34,000,
yes,
I think I saw a figure, right?
Yes. So anything less than $34,000, your risk of suicide doubles. So this is the category of people whose basic needs are not being met. And it's kind of understandable to see how that would be incredibly stressful. But then you have this kind of anything above $35,000, every dollar above that, your risk of suicide only decreases very marginally. It's almost insignificant. So it just goes to show that money can't buy you happiness, and it's all about focusing on the relationships in your life and the value that you bring to society and your skills and hobbies and talents and the joy that you get from those things.
You know what, I'm reminded about this. There was a major national news magazine in this country that had a front cover article about the millionaires among us, and with a picture of a modest suburban home and a modest North American built car in the driveway. It doesn't look like a millionaire's home, but it did say that there are so many people in this country who have amassed great wealth by living in a modest fashion, and they apparently seem to be quite happy with that. So what are they doing differently than the folks who have to drive, you know, a big expensive car and live in a big expensive neighborhood?
Well, I think the key here is knowing what you really need to survive. And I think we've even talked about this on this show.
Survive emotionally? Not physically.
Survive in the world. And we've even talked about this on this show before, that, you know, shopping and getting things is kind of like an addiction. Like, you're never really happy with the amount of things that you have. And if you've got a great big house, you're always going to want a bigger one. Or you're always going to want the next best car or the latest gadget, like the BlackBerry that we talked about.
Sure.
So it's about knowing yourself that you have what it takes to survive, and that really the more things that you have, it's not really going to increase your level of happiness at all.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. You said, you know, in effect, that things can never really satiate you. It's the relationships. But what do you see for those who want to attain a certain level of social acceptance by that, you know, blue chip neighborhood? Do you see individuals like that come in and say, I'm not happy? Do you see a lot of those individuals?
Definitely, definitely. This is really common for people to kind of want to be a part of that community. But I guess what I've seen in my experience is that people never get to the point where they feel completely satisfied with the status that they've earned. They always want more, and that's why it keeps us so unhappy.
So what do you say to them? What's your advice to them? What do they have to do to get happy?
Well, my best advice is to, instead of focusing on the things that you have, to focus on the things that make you happy in your life. And, you know, shopping or getting things or living in a great neighborhood is a temporary high, but focusing on your relationships is something that lasts forever. Also, we as parents are very big role models for our children growing up in neighborhoods like this. So making sure that we model the types of behavior that's important, like, you know, being productive members of society and focusing on our skills and talents and hobbies and what makes us special, as opposed to if we're a parent and we're saying, oh, I need this amazing handbag, or if I need a plastic surgery, or I need to lose weight, our children will most definitely be influenced by that. Yeah. So it's important that we're good role models as well.
You're right. That's where the messaging starts, absolutely.
Kimberly Moffit is a psychotherapist. Always good to see you, Kimberly.
Nice to see you.